Hey everyone, welcome to another G News update. Well, apparently 2 hours ago, President Trump signed the order to release all of the Epstein files. And this is just following a major U-turn that Trump did once he understood that this was going to become a congressional matter anyway, and set off a lot of talk about whether or not the Epstein files are going to be clean or have they been rifled through. So there's quite a bit of discussion at the moment about whether anyone can even trust the results at the moment. Trump has actually been quite vocal, as you know, about using this opportunity to attack some of his political opponents. And so who knows what the truth is anymore in this post-truth era. Anyway, so that's one piece of news. In other news today, as you probably also are aware, there was an encounter this morning between Winston Peters and Ingrid Hipkiss when it came to the small matter of why Winston was not actually being upfront with everybody about the $671 million in fees and costs that had been incurred by his government to the taxpayer, because his government decided shortly after they were elected to cancel the IREX project. And so that cost about $671 million, as I mentioned, and he'd left it out of his figures. Now, his figures was a sales job, and he was deliberately using politics to do a sales job, and the selling of that he thought he could probably get away with. But what happened was Ingrid Hipkiss, in the middle of her interview, said, hey, this starting figure you're using of $4 billion, you know that's actually not something that's happened, it's just a possibility. So it's not a real number, it's not something that you can claim a saving from. So pointing this out to Winston really got his goat, because he was trying to sell this whole idea that he'd saved the public money and, he was careful and a good manager and all this kind of stuff. But he was caught out pulling the wool over New Zealand, basically. And I think it's actually a deliberate Trumpian tactic when caught to try and run the clock down. So he started getting grumpy and gruff and saying, you wouldn't be able to understand, and I'll explain what it'll all be made up of. And sort of like a grumpy man telling off a schoolgirl type scenario, which is quite abusive. And a lot of people, particularly many of our female readers and viewers, came out and said in the comments that they found that particularly wrong, that Winston was being so abusive, and it's kind of time for someone to stop him from behaving this way, even for Ingrid to say, look, you can't talk to me like that. So yeah, it's just not the Kiwi way, and shame on Winston really for behaving so badly to people who are just asking him reasonable questions. But obviously he'd been caught out, and this is his political theatre that he uses to manage the fact that he doesn't want to be exposed to his voter base. Because if the truth be known that he was playing this game was actually laid bare, then he might lose some of that small constituency and head towards that 5% threshold where he normally exists. So there was all that. Then there was this other big piece of news that Davy Boy had said that, well, maybe Winston's going with the Labour Party now, after Winston did an about face and said, look, I'm going to repeal that regulatory standards bill. It's going to go in the next government. And so this meant ACT's regulatory standards bill, it's going to be repealed by all the opposition parties and NZ First. So what does that mean? Well, that means it's just a dead duck in the water. It's a dead act. From ACT walking. So the entire thing's only going to have some kind of like 1 year lifespan now that that line in the sand has been drawn by Winston Peters. And of course, this has fired up a great big reaction, and everyone's talking about how Winston's at that point now where he's actually pivoting and changing his loyalties again. He's going to be arguing that he hasn't changed, that he's always stayed the same, and this is his old position. But it actually is the case that he did sign up to that coalition agreement. He agreed with the regulatory standards bill. He didn't mention anything up until today that he opposed it. They voted for it even, and now they're going to repeal it. So it doesn't make sense. It's as if there's horse trading going on, a whole lot lack of principles, some crooked stuff. The other thing that happened in the news today was that Casey Costello freaked out because, this whole reaction of freaking out like Winston did when he was caught out. She freaked out and said it was ridiculous that the International Index for Tobacco had downgraded New Zealand from around about second place in the world as a leader in smoking reduction to 52nd place under this lot. And that all came back to New Zealand First and the way it had actually really gone backwards on tobacco tax and that kind of stuff. So This was interesting to watch, the same performative tactics from New Zealand First, kind of bluster, Trumpian bluster, where you kind of like go on the attack to defend yourself. In Parliament today, a couple of interesting things happened. I've got a clip or two to show you now. So the first clip is actually Carmel Sepuloni, and she's having a good old discussion there concerning Auckland with Simeon Brown. Now, Simeon Brown is kind of like just using rhetoric all the time to try and claim that things that were going to happen anyway, like the convention centre and some events at Eden Park. We're all excited in Auckland, but Carmel's got all the goods. She's got all the actual outcomes under his watch. Here's a clip. Just have a look at this.
Supplementary. When he said that the, quote, coalition government's plan will deliver for Aucklanders, end quote, did he mean he would deliver more unemployment, more people on the job seeker benefit, more empty shop fronts, more people homeless, and a shrinking economy?
Well, Mr. Speaker, if the opposition was interested in growing our economy, they would have supported fast-track legislation, because fast-track legislation has meant the Ports of Auckland extension has now started construction, which is growing jobs in our biggest city. They opposed those jobs. They opposed the extension of the Ports of Auckland. They oppose growing our economy, but on this side of the House, we're saying yes to growth in Auckland, yes to jobs in Auckland, yes to opportunities for our biggest city and for New Zealand. So, yes, I think it was quite a good victory there for Carmel over Simeon, who kept on trying to go back and attack the opposition. And I did notice the following kind of dynamic happening with Jerry. Jerry was letting Simeon Brown finish his attack on the opposition before he said that's enough. And on one occasion, at least, here it is, Simeon Brown understands that there's an understanding with Jerry that he can continue to attack the opposition and break standing orders at least once every time that he's warned, and then do it again. And he'll just continue to be warned, and there'll be no real consequences. So every single day, every single week, every single sitting block, they know at the National Party that, with Jerry on their side, that they can get away with at least one attack on the opposition and then be just warned, and then they'll even get to finish it. When it came to housing, where they promised 100,000 houses and didn't even get anywhere close.
Yeah, that's enough. Yep.
Go down to the Ports of Auckland. That opposition party opposed fast-track legislation. We supported it. There's people being employed. You were told to sit down.
Supplementary.
So the next bit of news that I just want to mention is Carmel got thrown out by Jerry at the end. Now, this was because the National Party were boasting that the pay gap had actually narrowed a little bit for women and between them and men. And they were gaslighting the opposition quite smugly. And there was Nicola Gregg, and she was kind of calling out and baiting Carmel. And so have a look at this clip. And this just basically shows Jerry then kind of losing his cool with Carmel's reaction to the baiting across the floor.
And we support sustainable economic growth, Ms Sepuloni. Fair pay and transparency empower women to achieve financial success and career advancement. This government delivers results, not just empty PRs.
Okay, sorry. I warned that member a number of times that the Honourable Carmel Sepuloni will leave the House. Well, Minister, the member Willie Jackson's willing to go with her. Way you go.
So Carmel gets ditched out and Willie goes with her. So this is the kind of dynamics that we're sort of seeing in there. There was also a bit of a discussion about the Hauraki Gulf, and Tama Potaka was saying how proud he was. But really what we're getting at here is those high protection zones have those commercial fishermen in there, and that has actually ruined an otherwise pretty good bill from the Greens and from Labour, who worked years and years on this, and National just Tama is trying to take the credit and say how proud he is. Here's a little clip from that exchange.
Supplementary. Is it fair to provide exemptions for commercial operators to fish in the Gulf's new protection areas, or should companies fishing for profit be subject to the same rules as everyday anglers?
E te māngai o te whare. Can I repeat that I am very proud that the parties that were represented in the House the night that the legislation was passed, including the Members' Party, all agreed that that legislation moved forward, notwithstanding there were some reservations by some members in the House that evening. But the legislation has been supported. We have reached a compromise over many, many years, and I'm very proud of tripling the protection in the Hauraki Gulf.
Supplementary. What does he think hundreds of recreational fishers are coming together to protest on Saturday in Tamaki to say no to commercial fishing in the Gulf's high protection areas?
E te maanga o te whare. I acknowledge that there continue to be concerns around a range of mechanics that have been implemented through the Hauraki Gulf legislation.
Yes, and so probably that's just about all I have to say right now. There's been some other bits and pieces through the day that have emerged, but really that's about it. As I mentioned earlier, it's Vicky's birthday on Saturday, so if anyone can chip in a little bit, that would be cool. Around the traps, there's a rather interesting phenomena too. Apparently, BHN have taken out some kind of podcast award, and Paul, the other one, has actually come third. So for those people that entered into that competition for podcasting, congratulations from G News. It's really good to see our voices on our, the kinds of values and the kinds of things that we want to see changed coming through and getting kind of validated and awarded for good performance as podcasting programs. So congratulations, everybody. So that's about it, really, and I'll talk to you all again soon.
Welcome to G News, the good news.
Yeah.